So we've been talking about the last murders in each province and territory across Canada, and this ties back to the compilation book "They Were Hanged," which was big in the mid 1960s. 1980s. I read the anthology, but this case was kind of a head scratcher. I've done more research over the years, and we basically think in the media this execution was due to the fact that although it was a crime of passion and the criminal should have got life in prison, he may have been executed because he was a homosexual. Now, we're going to talk about the curious case of BC's final execution almost 60 years ago, the very interesting case of Leo Mantha. Now, Leo Mantha, that there was no doubt to his guilt as he confessed to the crime prior to his execution. Now, according to the Daily Extra article written by the great writer Nathaniel Christopher, he brought into question Natalia. I mentioned the question: why was he executed in a time when capital punishment was decidedly on the wane in Canada, and most first-degree murder sentences were commuted to life imprisonment? The answer, it seems to many at the time, had everything to do with homophobia. Now, Mantha was hanged at what was the Okalala prison farm for the murder of his former lover, Aaron Bud Jenkins. Now, shortly after midnight on April 28, 1959, Mantha, described by one witness as a stocky, swarthy, toughly handsome man, shuffled into a dimly lit abandoned elevator shaft that served as a prison gallows. He stood over the trapdoor in the center of the rectangular room as the hangman, who had traveled from Montreal for the occasion, which was very common at the time, strapped Mantha's legs and slipped a black hood over his head and a noose around his neck. The hangman stepped back from the prisoner and pulled a lever on the floor, and the trap door gave away. Mantha dropped, according to media reports, fast and hard, leaving nothing but a trembling rope and a trace of phlegm in his wake, hanging for 12 minutes before the doctor declared him dead. Now, according to one of his acquaintances, one Stan Piantek, there's no way that they should have hanged him. It was awful. He is Stan is one of the last surviving witnesses from Mantha's trial. Mantha said, Piantek said that it was a crime of passion. If Bud had been a girl, they would probably have given him a life sentence or sent him to jail, but not hanged a person. That was awful what he did. Now, Piantek, who now lives in the West End, served in the Navy from 52 and 59. He and Jenkins both worked in the pay office at a Navy naval base in Esquimalt. Now, Mantha, a marine engineer, first met Jenkins in the spring of 58. They became acquainted through what Mantha described as a crowd at Victoria, all homosexuals. Piantek says the men got together for drinks at each other's homes or in pubs and for sex. Everybody went their own way, he recalls. Some guys would go to the Beacon Hill Park and go along the bottom and do some sunbathing down there, but other than that, everyone kept to themselves. Bud and Leo just hung out with each other, said Piantek. They didn't hang out anywhere in particular, maybe coffee or in a house. Now, Mantha had been dating Jenkins for 4 months at the time of his arrest. He later told an army psychiatrist that he had never been involved so deeply, affectionately, with anyone. No one had ever stirred me up like Jenkins. I don't know why, except I was loafing and drinking a lot and out every night, said Mantha, who described his final weeks with Jenkins as a whirlpool of alcohol, sex, and very little sleep. Now, Mantha was born in Verdun in 1926. He would later tell a prison psychiatrist that he had his first sexual experience at the age of 16 with an older boy who later became a priest. Raised in a strict Roman Catholic household, Mantha struggled with his sexuality. Now, because his sexual encounters with women were unsatisfactory, he eventually gave up a heterosexual lifestyle. He noted that he wasn't able to sustain an erection with women, but would get hard easily, almost too easily, from talking about sex with a man. He joined the Navy in 51, and shortly after his discharge in 56, a military psychiatrist diagnosed him with a personality disorder with alcohol and sexual deviation and found him unfit for duty, recommended that he be placed under psychiatric treatment in Montreal. Now, he gives a long history of extreme conflict over homosexual tendencies, which he recognizes as socially unacceptable and feels very shameful, the report reads. So as long as he does not drink, he can control them, although they still make themselves felt from time to time. Obviously, the service is the last place in the world for a man with this sort of conflict. By 58, letters sent by Mantha, who was working up the coast in a tugboat, to Jenkins have revealed that he largely abandoned attempts to suppress his sexual orientation. In one letter, he affectionately addressed Jenkins as Budsy Wudsy and You Nelly Old Thing. Well, darling, I hope you are behaving yourself. Also same for Jerry and Don, he wrote. Miss you terribly. Hope you do likewise. Maybe we'll be down in Victoria soon. I hope. Bye for now. Much love and kisses. Leo. Now, Martha's affection was not reciprocated by Jenkins, who felt that his lover was becoming too possessive. I was with Bud when he opened that letter, Piontek recalls. He seemed sort of upset because everyone did their own thing and cruised their own way. The relationship between the two began to unravel after Mantha returned to Victoria on August 5th, 1958, and culminated in a fight on September 5th. During this period, Mantha shared an apartment with Jenkins' cousin Don Perry at 451 Superior Street in Victoria's James Bay neighborhood. I was drinking that day and night, all that day at the apartment. We drank a bottle of whiskey from 8 to 11 that evening and beer. Mantha told an army psychiatrist. We watched TV and argued. Now, Mantha described Jenkins as a cock tease. I saw that he was just playing me for a fool and got me so riled up, he said. He had started insulting me, said I was just a sucker, that he was just taking me for everything I had. We used to go out a lot and we usually foot the bill while he was trying to tell me he was no longer interested in me. Now, Jenkins then told Mantha that he wanted to end a relationship and marry a female friend. Mantha punched him not once, but twice. Jenkins, who was 23 at the time of his death, was described in police documents as a homosexual of the feminine type. He was the youngest of 6 children in a staunch Anglican family. Now, I met him on the causeway and he was sobbing. There was some blood in his eye, Piontek recalls, motioning toward his right eye. Piontek took Jenkins to a cocktail bar in the Empress Hotel, where Perry worked as a waiter. Jenkins told Perry what had happened, and Perry advised him to wash the blood off his face and return to base. His uniform was at 451 Superior Street, and I went back with him there, and while he was getting changed, we were talking, telling me how he was beaten up and everything else, Piontek says. It turns out that Mantha had been in the next room to us, and he would have heard everything. Well, I decided over this fight that our friendship had come to an end, which hurt me very much, Mantha told the court. And I was just disgusted what had happened and couldn't see much in the future, so I was contemplating packing it all in. Now, defense lawyer and liberal MLA George Gregory asked, Mantha, what do you mean by packing it all in? Well, I figured we could drive up the Island Highway over to Malahat and give her the gas and just let her go, and it would be over the cliff there. Now, on his way to the Island Highway, however, Mantha decided to stop at a naval base in Esquimalt for a desperate attempt to salvage the relationship with Jenkins. Well, I was hoping if I saw Bud and could speak to him and try to patch things up, and then I would not have to do what I was going to do, he later testified. Now, Mantha sneaked into the barracks and entered Jenkins' room, where he and his roommate were sleeping. He stabbed Jenkins twice with a 23-centimeter hunting knife. I stood beside the bed and Jenkins was laying on his back. I think I bent down or reached down. I was going to ask him. And just at that moment he turned and moved, Mantha told the court. I think that startled me, and the next thing I recall is his screams, and I got panicky and ran out of the place. He started to scream and I ran away and out the same way I came in. Now Jenkins' roommate was awakened by a loud, high-pitched scream. Help me, oh God, help me, cried Jenkins, who was bleeding from his nose and mouth. He staggered toward the door, collapsed in the hallway, and died within minutes. Martha escaped from Naden without being detected and returned to his apartment. Perry, who had since returned from work, advised Mantha that he couldn't keep a friend by being possessive or by beating them. He didn't notice blood on Mantha's fingernails. Before he went to bed, Mantha called to Perry and said, I am in more trouble than you think. What could be more serious than to beat your friend? Perry replied. Mantha explained that he followed Jenkins to the base after he left and attacked him once more. How could you attack him more seriously than you already done? Perry asked. I don't mean I attacked him with my hands. I stabbed him with the weapon. My God, Leo, how could you do that to Bud? Mantha was arrested at the apartment and confessed his guilt within 5 minutes. Now, during the 9-day trial, Mantha's defense lawyer argued that the murder was a result of uncontrollable passion inflamed by excessive drinking. He told the jury that no man in his right mind would break into a military base and murder a soldier. The chance of success was absolutely nil. He reminded the jury that Mantha was charged with murder, not being homosexual, and suggested that he was found guilty because the world would be better off without Mantha, the same line of thinking would also apply to Jenkins. Now, but throughout the trial, Mantha's sexual orientation was described as a problem that exacerbated his brittle and explosive personality. Victoria psychiatrist Douglas Alcorn told the court that the passions ignited by rejection on the part of homosexuals were more intense than for heterosexuals. The homosexual is under peculiar stress and peculiar strains, which frankly manifests itself in outbursts of rage, panic, fear beyond that which one normally expects, and in a particular fashion in a heterosexual individual, Alcorn said. In other words, it was being long recognized that the homosexual is peculiarly prone to such outbursts. In his charge to the jury, Justice John Rutan advised jurors that they were dealing with an abnormal person. Certainly, I think the accused was provoked, and that's why the fight started, Rutan said, but do you consider a normal person could be provoked in a similar manner? After about 3 hours of deliberations, the all-male jury found Mantha guilty of first-degree murder, which left the judge with only one option. Now, Leo Anthony Mantha, the sentence of this court upon you is that you be taken hence to the prison from whence you came, and there kept in close confinement until March 13th, 1959, when you shall be taken to the place of execution, when you shall be hanged by the neck until you are dead. Now, Gregorley subsequently appealed the verdict to the BC Court of Appeal on the grounds that Rutan had misdirected the jury because he got the date wrong. The 19th of March was a Thursday, but he said a Tuesday. The court unanimously dismissed the appeal as no substantial wrong or miscarriage of justice had occurred in their view. Now, the final decision of whether someone would live or die rested with the federal cabinet. Then Prime Minister John Diefenbaker opposed capital punishment, and most death sentences were commuted to life in prison. During his second term in office from 58 to 62, only 9 of the 51 capital cases considered by cabinet resulted in execution. Gregory was a personal friend of Justice Minister E. Davy Fulton, who was the grandson of former BC Premier and Davy Stewart namesake A.E.B. Davy. Gregory, who addressed Fulton on a first-name basis in their correspondence, traveled to Ottawa with hope of obtaining clemency for his doomed client. In a letter dated December 18th, Gregory tells Fulton he is trespassing on their friendship to obtain speedy and authentic information as to the manner of handling of clemency appeals in respect of persons convicted of murder. This, I assure you, is not prompted by ideal curiosity on my part, but by the fact that a client of mine yesterday was sentenced to be hanged on March 17th. Many others, including Perry, submitted requests for clemency. I pray Leo's sentence, which is automatic, will be commuted, wrote Perry, who described both Jenkins and Mantha as good men. His death, per se, would not be no value to society. Even the tribal laws of Moses were changing by the time of Jesus. He included that any judgment inflicted by society on Mantha would not affect Jenkins, who was with God. Cabinet refused to commute his sentence. His brittle and explosive personality was caused in part by his early home life and his homosexual problem. Notes from the cabinet meeting read, from the evidence it would appear that the crime was motivated by Mantha's anger at a decision of the victim to break off the relationship. After some discussion, the cabinet agreed with Solicitor General Leon Barker's recommendation that the law should be allowed to take its course. Now, in their 2010 book, The Canadian War on Queers, National Security as Sexual Regulation, Gary Kinsman and Patricia Gentile write that the RCMP officers were sent to Victoria from Ottawa to assist in the investigation, using Jenkins' address book to find names of suspected gay men. Naval Security and the RCMP interrogated and purged or transferred men who were gay or presumed to be gay. Piontek says the given the bums rush on the Navy and spends these last days in the cell. Most of the people involved in the case have since died, but many key players, including the lawyers of both sides, as well as the judge who issued the death sentence, publicly admitted in years after trial that Mantha's sexual orientation had been a deciding factor in his fate. In 1996, Saturday Night Magazine published an article commemorating the life and achievements of Rutan, who died that year. Decades later, Rutan said he believed many other scoundrels deserved death far more than Mantha, Lynn Oliver wrote, but they were not homosexuals, and their sentences were all commuted, Rutan reportedly said. Now, Pat Johnson, writing for the Vancouver Courier in 1999, spoke with Lloyd McKenzie, who was Crown Counsel in Mantha's case and later became a judge. He had a very heavy load to carry in defending himself in this case because he was homosexual, Mackenzie told Johnson. There's no doubt about it. There was a strong factor mitigating against him. Now, this article is narrated with permission by dailyextra.com. The great Nathaniel Christopher wrote this. Please check out the original article and read more about the case online. Personally, I have covered many murder cases over the years. When I first read about this, you see there was a bunch of anti-gay sentiment within Canada from post-World War II, McCarthy era, the infamous fruit machine where homosexuals were put in this kind of lie detector version to see their visual responses to homosexual or male nudity imagery. I basically believe this gentleman was railroaded. A crime of passion should not lead to the death sentence at that time. If anything, it should be commuted, because we don't call it a crime of passion for nothing. Should a person be executed, it's not premeditated. It's basically someone that feels they should be loved, and they feel that the person he loves doesn't love them back. So, very interesting case, and I think that one of the cases that stopped summary executions in Canada, because when Cabinet was asked to take a look at it, that's where the aspects of the federal charter system we see now started, because a lot of people in the gay community remember this case and who are helping create the new laws that protect homosexuals now. So unfortunately for Mr. Mantha, too little too late. He was a murderer, yes, but he deserved to be executed? In my opinion, no. That's my opinion. Because a crime of passion, if you're not going to execute a heterosexual at that time, why would you execute a homosexual? Doesn't make any difference to me. It's a crime of passion. As the Carol Pope Rough Trade song goes, crimes of passion, crimes. So, thanks for listening. This is the latest series on the last executions across Canada. Check my archive for more of these, and we're going to follow this up down the road. Thanks for listening. Bye.